For one, I want to integrate student groups more together, have more joint SBA student group events, where we can have students who wouldn't normally go to some organizations' events be exposed to them. And we sort of accomplish two things with this. One, we increase interest in that student group from students who aren't normally interested. For example, WELSA, we might have people who aren't interested in labor law or don't know anything about it, go to those events, learn a little bit about it. At the same time, with SBA's reach, we would be able to promote events to more students would come, and we'd be able to have a lot more camaraderie at those events. But another thing I want to do is move events outside of just having bar nights, which are fun, of course, but we can do some non-drinking events. Like we can have an SBA sports league. We play every week a different sport. I think that would be a great way to build camaraderie without necessarily having to drink, which sometimes excludes students who don't want to stay up too late, have families, don't want to drink. These are just a couple of things I want to do, but I hope that answers your question.
Each question is answered by every candidate. If you're given an opportunity to answer the question, if you'd like.
Well, while camaraderie is not part of my campaign, I think it goes hand in hand with unity. And like I said, better timing of the events. For example, like I was saying, 1Ls, I talked to some of them. They told me that they felt excluded from some of the events this year because they'll be on Friday, they get out of class, and the event's halfway over by the time they get there. So as I said, I think at Master Calendar we do a lot to actually unify the community. You can look and see what's going on that day. We can make sure that we're not scheduling 6 events at a time, which is going to lead to better attendance. Like tonight, if I wasn't here, I would be going to Griswold at 50, I can guarantee you, because I'm very interested in reproductive justice. Also, going off that whole point, I think that we can do more to have unified events for the entire student body that aren't necessarily you pay $50 to attend, or that we spend thousands of dollars on, because we don't need to actually have them on campus and pay for catering, which is typically the cost that most students groups incur.
Hi, so my question is for the presidential candidate. Can you talk a little bit more about increasing on-campus in terms of student organization involvement or past SBA involvement or other things on campus expected? I don't know what
Okay, so my student involvement's mainly throughout the Pride Law Association. I've had extensive involvement in that. I'm actually the treasurer this year, and then I was elected at the beginning of this year by the Student Senate to actually sit on the SBA Budget Committee. So that's the extent of my involvement within the school, within the USF community, essentially.
To answer your question, I was a moot court case counsel this last year, and I'm on the new moot court board, so I'm very involved in the moot court program. I've been a Law Plus tutor for both the tort sections and the ASP tutor for criminal procedure. Very involved with the 1Ls and sort of helping them get through their first year. I've also been on the SBA, on the Faculty Appointment Committee, and as you know, or you may not know, we went through a library director search this year, and I was in on all the meetings with the faculty trying to get sort of the best library director who would have the students' interest in mind. And on that point, I've also been part of SBA in my capacity as a Faculty Appointment Committee, and just sort of learned the ins and outs of SBA and what SBA can do to help the students.
I just wanted to say thank you for your speeches, all of you. And this is directed to the presidents. I was very impressed with your ideas. I obviously am known a little bit more for the political activism on campus, and I would love to see that occur next year. This year there were a lot of die-ins at Berkeley and Hastings for Black Lives Matter, also for Ferguson. We had, the protesters for the CIA. As your for your platform, do you plan at all to engage in political activism or, support your student body in any capacity, just like Berkeley and Hastings did, this year? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm glad you asked that question. First, I'll jump to the elephant in the room, there were some issues with protests that happened earlier in the year when the CIA came. And I think that's a really important issue, and I've spoken to students about this. And as president, I wouldn't push the administration to foreclose any employers from coming to campus. I know that it's what some people want, but I think that having the administration foreclose employers from coming, especially government employers, however bad they might be, might have bad repercussions for other government employers trying to, for students in USF trying to have employment jobs. But I think that the SBA should be behind the students 100% in protest. And so although I won't, from the administration side, try to block any employers, I think that I will get 100% behind students who would like to protest certain employers like the CIA. Additionally, we used to have a civil rights clinic at USF, and in recent years that's been phased out in favor of some more IP and tax clinics that are happening. It's a long-term goal and one that cannot be reasonably accomplished in 1 year, but as president, I would push the administration to start thinking about methods to bring that civil rights clinic back sooner than later. And I know Professor Schatz and Professor De La Vega were instrumental in that civil rights clinic, and so we have people we can start talking to about bringing that back.
So basically, to answer your question, I've actually had a lot of experience with this whenever I did K through 12 education and students wanting to protest. I was actually in South Florida and teaching in the same area where Trayvon Martin was from. So I can tell you, I think it's very important that students need to express themselves and have a venue to do that. So for me personally, as long as it's not interfering with classes, I know the protest that was held for the CIA on campus, to me didn't interfere with anything. And the fact that campus security or campus safety is called on you seems a little absurd. So I will say that I would respect students' rights to do that. Broad-based rules, I would actually probably want the student senate to vote on something as a whole group. So it's not just me, it's not just SBA, but it's actually a student voice. And then I would give that recommendation to the dean after a policy was put in.
This is for the running for president. My undergrad school has a massive alumni network all over the country, and I always tap into that. I love it. And Jared commented on trying to bring more ones in, and I would love to see USF have more. I mean, this is San Francisco, so they're all over. So I'd like to see that. So I was just wondering, Sean, do you have any ideas on that? Or?
Absolutely. I know it's a very popular idea to get OCP to give up their alumni contracts, so we have a large base of all our alumni. People have tried, presidents past have tried, and it's very hard for OCP to give up that. And so we can use the networks that we have, and we do have access to all those alumni through our student organizations. And because the student organizations have their own targeted networks, by working more closely with student organizations to access those networks, and with SBA's own broader network, we can have events where more alumni are called back, and so we'll get bigger venues, more students getting to interact with more alumni, and we can do it all without trying to go down the road of pestering OCP to do something they won't do. And we can just use what we do have already, which is strong student organizations with strong targeted networks.
Yeah, I would love to hear you add to that.
Just bringing alumni in was your question, correct?
Yeah.
The ways that I'm going to do that? Okay, I just want to make sure I understood. I mean, basically my plan to bring alumni in is actually, like I said, multifold. I think that we need social events, first of all. We need to recognize them. And social events, I mean not networking, not mixers, but have something to build school pride in the sense of an annual basketball game between students and alums or something like that brings out a large crowd that people can rally behind and actually unite the community. And then from there, you can meet people indirectly. From there, you can say, hey, you came to this basketball thing. How about you come to campus and actually attend one of our tables during the career fair or something else like that I'm proposing, to actually get them involved instead of just sending them a letter, sending them an email and saying, hey, give us money, or hey, show up to this thing. And a majority of the people either trashing it or really not caring if they need it.
Do we have any questions for anybody besides the president to spread it out just a little bit?
For the treasurer, could you guys just comment on private affairs? Sorry, I didn't hear the tail end of the question.
No, it's the same question. So how do you prepare to be
Okay. So I think, I don't want to speak for both of us, but I've met with Max a couple times just to kind of go through the process of treasurer and how he manages the budget and sort of what it's like on the student organization's end as well as mine. I've had experience managing budgets and I've had experience managing Excel spreadsheets. I was able to, after working at Target, save 25% of a budget after that. So I feel like I'm pretty well versed in it. And in
from past experience, I've spent a lot of time developing my own budgets and financial plans for big projects. And I think that will add a lot of experience for me. But after getting elected as a 1L rep, I spent a lot of time with Max, looking at how the budget is done right now. He actually showed me some of the procedures, the process. I spent some time reading the policies, how to change it, and to reduce some of the confusion between certain budget requests and trying to get more transparency. Overall, I think my background and the work I've done this year prepares me really well for this position, and I think I can succeed in it.
I have a question for the representatives. So we've heard a lot of great ideas about, I guess, integrating organization and games at the park and tournaments and all of this great stuff and bigger venues. But as of now, when you come to an event, there's about 7 or 10 bodies in the seats. So how do you plan on increasing participation at these wonderful events that
So getting people to actually show up to events that are planned is sort of it's one of those things where you have to juggle real hard, and you have to sort of make sure that you don't overreach on planning an event where you feel like, this is a great idea, but I'm not sure people are going to show up. And then on the other hand, like under planning where you're going to say like, okay, well I think, maybe 20 people show up, and 50 people do. So the idea is to make a plan and then just blitz people with information about it, and just really like talk it up, and you got to do everything you can. You got to spread this by word of mouth, and you have to make sure everybody understands how much fun it's going to be. So I agree with you that there hasn't been enough done in general for a lot of events. From the actual like class representative side, we don't get involved. Like people don't really come to us all that often saying like, hey, could you help us like with this event or that event? So we'd love to have organizations come to the reps and say like, why don't you help us spread the word? So we'd be definitely willing to do that.
May I answer that? So I've had, to follow up on your point, we've had 2 events that my classmates suggested, and then we ended up hosting them, and they were both very well attended and successful, one of them being the space law lecture earlier today. So I feel like integrating more of the student body ideas about the types of events, and also back on your idea of like making sure there's a calendar where there isn't overlap, because I think that's a lot of the problem that my classmates have voiced.
We'll have the other representatives answer first, and then we'll have the vice presidents answer.
As far as getting the word out for people to attend, I think it's really important to get more student input, just like my colleague said here. I know for American students, a lot of times the events are held at times when we can't attend, so it'd be nice to get more input from the Cartoon students about events they'd like to see and would attend. And I think also getting different people involved in having events that appeal to a wider variety. It seems to me like a lot of the events appeal to people with different sports. It'd be nice if we could move beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, I've been pretty active in putting on different events on campus, and it has been a concern of mine watching some of the other events turn out with low attendance. I think a lot of it has to do with organization and efficiency and just general planning inside the student organizations. Particularly myself, I've served on the Sports and Entertainment Law Association, and we've put on numerous events this year, the past 2 years, that have had tremendous attendance. Most recently, we just put on the General Counsel panel, which featured all 6 Bay Area sports teams and had over 170 people in attendance from all 6 Bay Area law schools, including alumni, faculty, and administration. And so I think a lot of that came from my organization working together, communicating with each other, setting tasks, holding each other accountable to those tasks and goals, and optimizing a plan to work on these events and make sure they run smoothly. And I think that's something that I'm ready to bring to the table as a vice president as well, is to just use that organization and communication and accountability to create tasks and make sure those tasks get accomplished to put people in those seats. And I think it's 100% possible because I've seen it happen numerous times.
I really want to work on encouraging student groups to have some of
of their big events earlier in the semester. I know that there's been a lot of concern this year about some of the signature events being held, you know, in the weeks before finals, and they're saying, well, I can't go to that because I'm studying. And I think that like planning things are really important, and some of the big events, you know, they've been planned and then they've had to be rescheduled a few times because of conflicts with other events. So I think that that's a really good way to, you know, boost numbers, is to not only have them, you know, plan well so that they're not conflicting with, you know, all the other events that are happening tonight, but also to make people actually go.
Can I answer just really quick? I think a big important part is that we already have a master calendar, and I think the fact is that we should get that word out there, that there is a master calendar, and that the student group should submit those. I mean, it's online, it's on the USF Connect site, so I think maybe one big thing that we can do is just get that word out there so that people actually go to the master calendar before trying to plan events.
Kate, did you want to answer the question?
Yeah, can I answer?
Or Caitlin, sorry.
Okay, so I kind of forgot the question. It was about getting events out, correct?
It was about, I mean, everybody has ideas about events and getting people to participate. Because that meeting, I think it's that Jarrett's master calendar about increasing participation.
I think that's a really tough question because I know, like, as a 1L rep this entire year, just getting my classmates to come to any part-time event was like literally I had to stand in front of them and tell them what was going on. I would send emails constantly, so it's kind of dependent on the incoming class, I feel like, as well, because just because we have these concerns now and maybe we'll change that this year, what about next year? What about the 1L concerns next year and stuff? So, I mean, I think a big thing is just, yeah, networking and getting it out and kind of finding the benefits. I mean, it's as shitty as it is, people love free food, so really market that. Like, I mean, I get like the middle section right there, all those part-time students like to come to all these events with me because there's free food and stuff. And I mean, it's kind of a balance. You gotta kind of read your class and read the type of people you're in class with, honestly.
We're just going to take one more question.
Last question. I'm going to ask it. I want to go down the entire line in literally a few words. And I want to hear what your view on the administration currently is. Just a few words. You can say positive, negative.
Well, I'm going to speak specifically to the treasurer. If that's okay with you.
Sure.
I think we've done a really good job in trying to go cashless, but I know there's been a lot of pushback from the administration, and I kind of want to move away from the thing that we're doing right now for the master's goal, which is fill out a form, and try to move towards a Square or Venmo type of purchasing, and just take the momentum and keep it down that road.
Just a few words.
Are we talking about the administration or the current SBA?
Sorry, the administration, the USF. Dean Todd.
So it's my turn now. I personally have, I mean, I've had good interactions with the administration, but I know many people have not. And so I really want to be able to work on that to help make sure that all of our needs are being met, not just, you know, a few people.
And I hope to work with the future executive board to make sure that all students' needs and voices are heard and that they kind of follow through on things that we're trying to be implemented.
The current dean and the students don't necessarily have the same goals in mind. And so as SBA president, I will use the support and the relationships I have with the faculty to fight with the dean's office for student needs.
I'll say, although there are differences between our students and our administration, I think our administration is finally going to listen, so it's our time to talk.
I personally haven't had a meeting with the administration, mostly because I haven't needed to, but I've heard my peers' complaints about many of the classes, specifically one this semester, and I mean, I want to advocate for my friends and everybody else.
For the faculty and staff, I think overall they're excellent. I do think that the dean specifically often doesn't hear students' needs, and I have no problem being that voice. Attending the town hall, I'll keep this brief. When students complained about instructional quality, his response to students was, "We hired the best." And then they asked the procedures, and he responded, "We have a lot of qualified people that want to teach here." That's not an answer.
Yeah, I've had good interactions with most of the teams. And what I would add is the town hall meetings, I've gone to a couple of them. I would want to see more follow-up after that, because I know students do voice their concerns, but then does it end there? Like, do they actually do something about it later? And also, I would add to the same idea that should not end there, raised about like being more involved in faculty hiring decisions. So I would try to advocate for more student input and accountability to make sure they're actually
Okay, great. So I think the administration has a bad habit of like throwing money at problems without actually looking at where it's going. So like our numbers were low because we weren't getting a lot of jobs out of law school. So the school's like, oh, let's just throw a bunch of money at OCP. Except that all OCP can do is like help you with your resume. So why don't we scrap one or two of the full-time OCP people and use that money to pay for people to work for free over the summer? That's a good idea, I think so.
I kind of agree with Jeff, but also, I agree, like the town hall meetings, I think they're beneficial, but at the same time, I feel like they're just talking at us and not listening to us for sure, and definitely not considered of timing whatsoever. There's one specifically town hall meeting last semester that was scheduled when we all had canceled class, so as a 1L rep, I wanted to go to support, so me and only one other person in my class was there, it was like a class full of 3 people listening to the dean, so that also doesn't make them think that we care, even though we do.
In regards to administration, I would say that they are often defensive and a little bit disconnected, and I would hope that they would be more open